Welcome everyone to a new edition of Draft on Tap. Let me turn this thing off because it's making background noise. My name is Aldo Gandia, and before we get started here, I just want to let you know that if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching us live on Facebook, why don't you get over to streamyard.com/Facebook. That way we can see your comments and any questions you might have for Danny or our guests. And for all of you who are watching on our YouTube channel and are joining us live, thank you very much. You guys are loyal followers and really appreciate the interaction with you. And so I encourage those people who watch on demand, the thousands who watch on demand, if you can join us for a live taping of our show every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. It's greatly appreciated. You are a big part of the show because you add so much with your comments and questions. All right, let me bring in Danny Shimon here. Danny, how are you, my friend?
I am doing great, Aldo. Great to be with you again tonight on another edition of Draft on Tap. We have another jam-packed show. We have, one of the what I call one of the stars of the combine last week going to be joining us live here shortly. Real pumped up and looking forward to talking to him about that. And things are happening. People are getting cut. Some players are getting signed. So we'll see. Rumors are out there flying. I've heard some crazy rumors out there, and one of the most crazy. We'll kind of touch on them probably toward the end of the show. But I heard a crazy rumor that I think Aldo will make you maybe fall out of your seat. So,
Ooh,
guys, get prepared for that one.
I hope it doesn't have anything to do with the Caleb Williams, Justin Fields thing, because I'm really getting tired about that.
It's quarterback related. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. All right. So our next guest is a rising star, and I saw a post from his agent and with a link to some of his achievements, and she wrote that she sat with her client a year ago and mapped out their goals for the year, and check mark, check mark, check mark. He's been achieving all these goals like they're nothing at all. And so I said, I got to interview this guy, particularly since he's from the Chicagoland area. So without further ado, let me welcome in from Southeast Missouri State, Ryan Flournoy. Ryan, how are you, man?
Man, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Man, this is a treat for us. I'm telling you, now that I've learned about you and I've been studying some of the tape and looking at highlights and seeing some of the numbers, you really are an up and coming wide receiver. And are you surprised at the buzz that's being created about you?
Honestly, no, because I know like what I can do, and I know what I had to do at the combine and at the Senior Bowl. So I just knew like I always would be in the spotlight.
Awesome. Danny, why don't you take it over?
Yeah, so Ryan, we talked about earlier. Again, thanks again for giving us some of your time. I know it's a busy time for you right now and all that stuff, so we do appreciate it. But although I always talk about the process, right, in terms of this pre-draft process, where it starts off with the Senior Bowl and all the All-Star games, and it goes on to the combine and so on and so forth, and year in year out. And I always say, hats off to Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl. They always bring prospects from all over the country, and Ryan was one of those players. Or I put on the tape, and Ryan and I'm going to be honest with you, man. I hadn't seen your tape prior to the Senior Bowl, and I saw you on the list. I looked up your dimensions, looked up some of your tape, and I'm like, whoa, this kid can play. And then that's one of the things that I noticed about you is that first practice, it looked like you were kind of getting your feet wet and kind of getting settled in. And then that second practice and that third practice, I was talking to your pre-show here. I'm saying, day 3 notes, I've got your name written down over my notes saying, he's making plays all over the field here. And something that really stuck out to me and stuck out to me also on your tape as well is the competitive toughness you have for football, the blocking that you like to do downfield and all that stuff. So all things stuck out. And the fact that you're a hometown guy is even greater. And then now you go to the Senior Bowl. You go to the combine last week and you did a phenomenal job. So I know your journey's been long. I know you started off at Central Missouri and then went to Iowa Western Community College, and then you went now over at for the last couple of years over at Southeast Missouri State. Tell us about your journey, how it all started, and how you ended up, at Southeast Missouri State. How did you end up at the Senior Bowl and then finally at the Combine?
I started when I first started playing football. I was 5 years old, and I was never the guy. Like even when I was 5 years old to 8th grade, I was never the guy. I was always a role player. We always had somebody that would be in the spotlight, and I always did my part. So being where I'm at now took a lot of hard work. I always had to do hard work over talent. So with that being said, high school, I started my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, but I was never the guy. I was always the guy doing the dirty work. I was always the guy going out and block, going out, clearing out routes, and really just being a team player. And I always kept my head down and always worked as hard as I can. I was probably like the only one after practice watering the tree and trying to build a foundation for myself. And then like freshman year of high school, I was 5'3", 99 pounds, and I wrestled in the 106 category, and I was 5'3", 99 pounds, and now I'm 6 foot, 202 pounds. So it's definitely been like a grind, and I was under recruited out of high school just because we had All-American running back, Justin Hall, man, great guy, great football player. Um, he ended up going to Northern Illinois, and I ended up going to Central Missouri, which is a D2. And as soon as I stepped on campus, I knew I had to work because I'm just a freshman coming into college for the first time, and I want to make a name for myself. So I was there for 3 years. I redshirted my freshman year. I became the starter my redshirt freshman year, but I tore my ACL 2 weeks before the first game, and I missed 4 games and played the rest. Played the rest of the games with a torn ACL on a brace. So that's where the toughness comes from. I've always been a tough player, but I always want to be there for my team. So playing in that brace, if it helped the team win, I'm willing to do. And then I decided to transfer and bet on myself to go to junior college, Iowa Western, where I retore that ACL and had surgery on it. And I had surgery March 22nd and got cleared August 10th. And it was a 4-month. And all the doctors were like, man, are you Superman? But I literally went out every single day and worked to get my knee better and better than what it was. So, and I was able to play that whole fall. We went to the national championship, but unfortunately, we lost. And then I was able to get recruited by Southeast Missouri State and played 2 years there, played 2 seasons. And my whole goal was just to dominate that whole conference, just the whole college football. And honestly, I think I did.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and then going over it, like I said, just you caught my eye at the Senior Bowl. I kept watching you, day in day out, and the practices and what you did. What really caught my eye was you and Darius Robinson, the Missouri defensive lineman. You guys got into a tussle a little bit in one of the practices, and I said, because you were blocking him, and he's like, "Wait, what's going on here?" It's a receiver blocking me. And I like that, and I like that about you. So then I go ahead. And then I'm like, so I'm following you. I put on the I go through your season. I put on the first thing I put on is your first opener, season opener versus Kansas State. And I want to see you go up against, a Power 5 school. You had 10 receptions, I believe 96 yards or something like that. And what I saw was just the ability to go ahead and pluck the ball with a natural hands, soft hands catcher, pluck it out of the air, the way you can extend away from your frame and catch that. You're obviously a hands catcher, and doesn't, you don't have to, secure the ball with your body and all. I love that about you. I love the fact that you can go ahead and you can sink your hips at the top of your route and separate and come back to the football. And the one thing the note I made here on my notes, Ryan, was the score was 45 to nothing. It was 13 minutes and 44 seconds left in the fourth quarter. So you guys are getting it handed to you, but there was a pass that went over the middle, and you went up. And you high pointed the ball between 2 defenders. You didn't come down with the catch, but that effort and a play at that point of the game where the game is out of hand, that showed me your toughness and your passion for this game, and that really caught my eye. So even though it was incomplete, that really caught my eye there. So just a hats off to you in terms of that effort you put on versus Kansas State. And the other thing I like to talk about is in terms of refining your receiving skills. Where have you gone, comments, suggestions, coaching from some of the NFL guys that you talked to down in Mobile, or even, on recent visits, if you had any visits, in terms of how you can master your craft? Because for me, you're more of a possession receiver, a guy that can even though you're covered, you can still are open because of your catch radius and the ability to extend away from your frame and make the play. So what tips have you gotten from scouts, coaches, so on and so forth, in terms of refining your game overall?
Yes, sir. Really just route running and winning at the top of my route. Like I got very close with Chris Carter at the combine, and I was just really following him around the whole week and just ask him, picking his brain just because he's a Hall of Famer. And honestly, I don't want to just go to the NFL. I want to be a Hall of Famer. So I just wanted to see how he did it, and he was like winning at the release point and winning at the top of the route, and that's something I'm working on right now, and something I got to work on just because I know I could catch the ball, but if I catch the ball wide open, that's a touchdown every time. So that's something I'm working on.
Now I noticed you line up all over the place for Southeast Missouri State. You line up the X at the Z and also in the slot. Is there a spot you prefer? Is there one spot where you're more comfortable, or you've been taught to play all three positions basically?
I really just been taught to play all three. I'm comfortable in the slot, comfortable outside. It's really just comes down to winning. Like I really like to win. So like if I'm winning in the slot, I prefer to be in the slot, and if I'm winning on the outside, I prefer to be out there.
And like I talked about, your competitive toughness, your football, your passion for the game, and one thing I complimented you on my notes here as well is your blocking downfield. And it looks like you take pride in that, and you're out there, you're putting your effort out there for your guys, whether it's downfield for a fellow receiver or for a running back. Talk about your blocking and where does that come from? That the passion to go ahead and be able, some guy that can go ahead and just help the team, even if you don't have the football in your hands, help your teammates. Where does that come from?
Yeah, sir. That just come from being a dog. I feel like I'm a warrior, and every time I want to make my opponent reconsider playing football. So, like, if I could block you and just make you frustrated, I did my job. So that's something I take pride in.
And I talked about, although Darius Robinson, the Missouri defensive lineman, didn't like him blocking him in those practices. And I saw that firsthand on those tapes. But again, the other thing that for me that gives you that shows that you have some of that dog mentality is your fearlessness over the middle. And again, go back to that Kansas State game. There was another a play late in that fourth quarter where you went over, you outstretched and made a hell of a play in between two defenders. So again, this is a kid, although that will go down and make plays in the middle of the football field, fearless, tough. And also, as you showed at the combine, has got that 4.4 speed. Now, you did surprise me with that 4.4 speed. So I'm assuming you trained and all that, because you look like a maybe high 4, maybe 4.5 guy, but that 4.4 came out of nowhere. But other than that, I mean, you had the 1.53 10-yard split, the almost 40-inch vertical, the 11-foot broad jump. I mean, that shows the explosiveness you has in your lower body. Is that something you've been concentrating on, working on here after your college season ended?
Honestly, I've always been strong and powerful. So like a pre-draft work, and there I ran a 4.35 hand time, and I jumped a 41-inch vertical, but my broad was a 10.5, so that 11 beat that. But I'm definitely happy with the numbers I put up at the combine. But I feel like I could have done a little better.
So are you going to run again or test again? Are you going to do a pro day? Are you going to go somewhere else for a pro day? What are you going to do there?
So I'm going to attend Mizzou's pro day.
Okay.
I'm not going to run anything, but I'm going to do position work in the 3-cone and the pro agility in the L drill. So, and I'm pretty confident in my technique in both of them. So you'll see.
Now, I also know you do have some return experience. I think you have 5 kickoff returns in your career. You do have a touchdown. So is that something you do like to take advantage of as well? Because that might be a path for you to make a roster or make an NFL team at the next level. Something you're open to as well?
Yeah, like I said, I'm willing to do the dirty work. If I got to be a field goal hold kicker, if I got to hold the field goal, I'll do it. So, I remember in 2022, I did run back an onside kick. They kicked it to me, and I just scored a touchdown. So, special teams is something I like. Just playing football, I take pride in. So, special teams definitely.
All right. So I know, although I'm sorry, I'm taking the advantage of Ryan's time, but there's a question I have it's like a 2 or 3 part question. So give me the quarterback you would love to catch a touchdown pass from. Give me the DB you want to beat for that touchdown pass. And is there someone, safety, linebacker, or DB, that you want to run over in the NFL?
Let me see. I'm a big fan of Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a great quarterback. It'll definitely be cool to catch a football touchdown pass from him. As far as DBs, Probably Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
He's a great DB, and that would be some memorable and somebody I would like to run over. Fred Warner.
Ooh.
Ooh.
He's going after the big guys, man. He's not going after some linebackers. He's going after the big boys. That Jair Alexander, so that's going to make a lot of Bears fans happy because they don't like Jair Alexander here in Chicago. So catching a touchdown over him. Hopefully, you're doing it in a Bears uniform. Hopefully, you're catching it from whether it's Justin Fields or Caleb Williams or whoever it's going to be.
Yeah.
But speaking of the quarterbacks, did you have a chance to talk to or mingle with any of the quarterbacks down at the combine, whether it's Jaden Daniels or Caleb Williams or Drake May or some of the guys? And if you did, who impressed you and who kind of was more like loose and more of a, if you say more engaging than if any other ones?
Yeah, for sure. I literally talked to every single quarterback there, even a lot of quarterbacks there that was at the Senior Bowl. So we kind of got a connection. But I like JJ McCarthy. He's also a hometown guy. We was just chopping it up, talking about high school football and just because we know a lot of the same people and we just chopping it up. He's definitely a cool dude. Sam Hartman, he's a cool dude, just really down to earth, man. Funny guy.
He's got the hair. He got the hair flowing.
Yeah, got the model look.
Yeah.
And then I got close with Spencer Rattler. He's a cool dude. He was at the Senior Bowl. Got close with him there, and then close with him at this combine. He's a great guy. Joe Milton, great guy. Got a rocket of an arm.
Yeah.
Definitely got the confidence of a lion. So,
did you catch the one bomb from him? Was that you running on there?
No, I caught it from JJ.
JJ. Okay.
Yeah. And Caleb Williams, great guy. I really talked to every single one of them. All of them cool.
Cool. Now, I know we talked earlier. You already have a visit scheduled with the Bears, right? So, what other teams have you already scheduled visits with scheduled? If you can announce that, I'm not sure if you can. Or can't.
Bears were the only one.
Only one. Okay.
Right. Well, good luck with that. Danny, you got any more? I got a couple from him and a few from our chat area.
Go ahead and jump in, Aldo.
Well, Ryan, I showed you a play from your Eastern Illinois game back in October 14th, and I wanted you to kind of take us through the play. And for the fans, the situation is there's 49 seconds and a half. Your team is down 14-7. And so on this first down play, tell me what play was called, and then I'll roll it, and you can talk us through it, okay?
Okay, so the play was called Chili, and before we even got to this 2-minute thing, my quarterback Paxton came up to me and said, "Be super." So everybody at my school and all the fans called me Super, and he said, "Be super." So I ran a 15-yard curl and wanted to get a touchdown before the half. So that's I seen the hole was open. And I just had to make a play and show my yak skills.
Yeah, you are certainly really good at pushing off defenders. What's that sign there? What is that?
So I had God written on my tape, and I just wanted to show that off because it was him. You see, I got a club on. I had a broken hand.
That's right. That's right.
So it was definitely difficult playing with that, but I think. I persevered and just showed my toughness once again that I could be a receiver that played with a club and still catch touchdowns. So,
outstanding. All right, we got a few questions here from the chat. Cliff Victoria asks, "Where are you hoping to be drafted? Do you have a team preference?" And then somebody else asked sort of a similar question. What was the team, Mr. Mayhem? What team did you grow up rooting for?
So where do I hope to be drafted? Honestly, I just hope to be drafted, So, honestly, if the Bears get me, man, I'll be living rent free because I'm staying at my parents' house for the rookie season. So, but if Bears come and grab me, man, that'd be a blessing and a dream come true. And a team growing up for me, I like Tom Brady. So, watching the Patriots was always something, and I played for a team called the Patriots when I was young. So,
cool.
Yeah, so that's Patriots. I always been a Patriots fan. I always been a Tom Brady fan, but I, you know, Bears, anywhere.
Awesome.
Sounds good. J2K wants to know who do you model your game after? Have you studied anyone that's currently in the NFL?
I really model my game after Dez Bryant. I feel like he's a big receiver. Me and him probably have the same attributes and skills. I like Jamar Chase. Definitely explosive receiver. Doug Baldwin was a nice one. Underrated. You know, he
Right.
wasn't most popular, but he did got the job done. And I like Mike Evans just because the longevity. Like I said, I want to play in the league for 12, 16 years. Just I want to grow old in the league. So seeing him do that is something like motivation for me.
Notorious, you already answered the first part of Notorious's question. What would it mean to be a Chicago Bear? But he adds, what does the expression bear down mean to you? How would you define it?
Bear down is always staying down with the Bears, good or bad. So that's how I always. I've been to two Bear games, and it was bear down, Chicago Bears. I love that saying, but yeah, just staying down with the Bears.
Outstanding. How badly do you want this? How badly do you want to play in the NFL and make this your career for the next 10 plus years?
So bad. Like I said, I've been playing football since I was 5 years old. It's a passion. I'm literally doing everything I could to get here. So I live football, I eat football, and I breathe football. This is like something like I really take serious. So it's amazing that I'm really going through this, and it's so real that I was able to be at the combine. So like it's crazy.
When you had your combine press conference, you thanked a couple of women in your life. Could you please share that with our audience?
Yeah, so I thank my mom because she's everything to me. She's amazing. She sacrificed a lot for me, my sister, and my brother just so we can play sports, and because we didn't have a lot of money, but we played sports, and a lot of sacrifices were made by her and my father. And I thank my girlfriend because ever since I met her, I became a better person, and I molded myself into a better person to impress her. So,
I love it.
so thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my current wife. And then after, we said I do to each other, I turned back into throwing the guy that throws his socks around the house and stuff. So I warn you, don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Danny, you got any final questions for him?
No, just one more comment. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch Ryan's tape, go ahead and do yourself a favor. Watch his tape. And the three guys he mentioned in terms of the receivers he models himself after, the common thing that Ryan has with them is the toughness at the catch point. This is a kid that watching his tape, he will catch through contact. And that's one thing I love about some receivers is the physicality he brings. And again, that 4.4 speed, you add that to the physicality you have over the middle, the toughness and the competitive drive you have. Ryan, I am excited for your future, and I hope it's in Chicago. But if it's not, I am confident you're going to have a successful NFL career.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Appreciate it,
Ryan. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much for being a guest on our show. Take care, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Good luck.
Ryan Flournoy, man, oh man, that was fun. It's good to really talk to these young aspiring players. They have so much hope. It's almost, I hate to get maudlin here, but they're sort of a symbol about life. When you see these guys, and particularly a guy like that who was not highly recruited, had to fight so hard, had to train so hard to get to where he has, anybody's going to be inspired by that. Even, people who are not big fans of sports, they're going to hear his story and just be inspired. Good stuff and great.
When you had him booked for as a guest, I was excited because, like I said, he caught my eye at the Senior Bowl practices, and I had never heard of him prior to that. And went and dug into some of his tape, and then just saw, like I said, the effort versus Kansas State. Like I said, down 45-0 in the fourth quarter. And I see him dive and go up and try and high point a ball in between two defenders, and he gets smashed. And it was incomplete. But you know what? That shows me the competitive drive and the toughness he's got. And again, he goes on, he pulls that 4.4 40. almost a 40-inch vertical, the 11 feet broad jump. I mean, that shows the athletic ability he's got to be able to compete at this next level. I love the fact that, again, this is what we talk about, right? You start at the Senior Bowl, these all-star games, and you catch a scout's eye, or you catch a team's eye, and the next thing you know, you're at the combine, and now you even go there and you impress there. Now the next thing is now going ahead and if he says he's going to do a pro day in Missouri and just get to know these teams, and hopefully, like I said, Ryan Streamer comes through and he gets drafted. But again, for me, he's a guy that, day 3, if you have a extra pick in the 5th, 6th round, you could definitely take a flyer on this kid, and he's the guy that's going to come in, like I said, compete for a roster spot and eventually make the team. All right.
We're going to talk about next interior offensive lineman that Danny has scouted. He's got his top 10 list to share, but we're going to take a quick break, regroup, and we'll be right back in about 60 seconds.
Unfollowing the Bears, unfollowing the NFL, that's a coward's way out.
Kaplan called Fields a coward in that interview, and that really kind of bothered me because, first of all, in what world has Justin ever shown the city of Chicago through the adversity he's been through and everything else on the field, the hits he's taken, even at Ohio State when he broke his rib in that semifinal game? How and in what way has he shown that he is a coward? Okay, this man is tough as nails. Okay,
nothing that he says to me has any merit or value. He's always talking about how, well, my source here and my source here. Dude, you have no sources. Those sources that you're talking about are giving you false information.
Welcome back to Draft on Tap. That was a clip from the Willis Twin Towers podcast. That's on every Friday, usually between 5:30 and 6 o'clock. And those two guys are students of the game and in love with the Chicago Bears and Notre Dame football. They talk a lot of Notre Dame on their show as well. So if you haven't seen them yet, give them a shot. We'll be on this Friday a little bit after 5:30. Danny, it is your time to shine again with your interior offensive lineman. Why don't you first start by giving us a profile, what your expectations are for interior offensive linemen in this Shane Waldron scheme?
Right. And then just to start off, like, this is my favorite position to scout. I love offensive linemen. I love what they call the big uglies, right? These are the guys that, for me, are the foundation on your offense. If you offensive line, I've said it multiple times. You guys have heard me just kind of maybe repeat myself over and over again. If your offensive line sucks, your team's probably going to suck, right? So I love scouting these guys. And in terms of what the Bears are going to do, so, with Shane Waldron coming obviously from the, Sean McVay tree, there's going to be some of the similarities we'll see with what we saw with Luke Getsy, right? We're talking about some inside zone. We'll talk about, some outside zone stuff. You may see some power stuff here and there, a guard pulling or some counter traps, but predominantly it's going to be zone scheme. So what I'm looking for athletic offensive linemen. I'm looking for guys that are light on their feet, that can move east and west, move laterally, and maintain and sustain their blocks, and not lose contact with the defender. I'm looking for guys that when they chip and release to the next level can get to that second level linebacker or defender, whether it's a safety or whatnot, and get to them and wall them off, get in their way and impede their progress and create that lane for the runner behind them. So I'm looking for those kind of guys. Obviously in pass pro, I'm looking for guys that are athletic with quick feet, guys that can mirror, can slide and shuffle their feet and stay in front of their defensive linemen, can keep their shoulders square to the pass rusher. And also looking for guys with length, right? We've talked about, defensively, Eberflus and his staff looking for guys with long arms, length, athletic ability. I think same thing here. Now with the inside guys, you don't necessarily looking for the length. Obviously with my tackles, those outside guys, you're looking for guys with certain arm length, certain athletic ability. But for these inside guys, they could be a little bit, don't have to necessarily be precise in terms of that length and overall athletic ability, but they got to be able to stay on their feet, have balance, have good knee bend, be pretty good athletes, and also, like I said, just get to that second and third level and maintain those blocks and help create the lanes and the little creases for the running back to get through. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for athletic guys that can stay on their feet, and guys that are natural, benders, and not guys that bend at the waist or lumber to the next level, or just heavy-footed offensive linemen.
Before we reveal number one on your list, can you, with the acquisition now of Ryan Bates, formerly of the Buffalo Bills, and is coming in to maybe compete for the starting center job, maybe just be a backup to the guards, particularly given Nate Davis and Tevin Jenkins' injury history in 2023, how would you assess the Bears' interior offensive line right now with Bates, Davis, and Jenkins?
Well, for me, Ryan Bates is the Cody Whitehair replacement. He's a guy that's a veteran offensive lineman that can play all three interior positions. He can play center, he can play right guard and left guard. And Whitehair last year, once he lost the starting role, he was basically the guy that came in and filled in if Jenkins went on left guard, or he came in and filled in at right guard, or came in and filled in at center if the center got hurt. So I think that's what they brought him in for. Now, in terms of could he possibly compete for the starting center position? I guess that's a possibility, depending on what they do here, whether they go out and sign a free agent, which we'll get into the free agent class later on the show, or if they go and get one of these young guys. So just to kind of be here, foreshadowing here, my top 4 or 5 guys on this list, Bears are not going to get them, guys, because they're not. These guys are in that second, late first, early second, mid-second round portion. Bears currently don't have a second round pick, so unless they trade, make some maneuvers, whether it's a Justin Fields trade, whether it's trading down from number 9 and getting a second round pick, or recouping a second round pick in that trade, they're probably not going to get these 4 or 5 top guys on my list, right? So then we're looking at now late day, third round. We're looking at day 3 as well. So some of these guys are going to be reflective of that area in terms of my grades, in terms of where I see them going. So, but yeah, going back to your original question, although I think Ryan Bates is a veteran that could play multiple positions inside, and those guys are valuable. I know he's getting $4 million a year, but again, there's a guy that with one roster spot can back up 3 spots, and that is valuable on an NFL roster, especially with the specialty stuff that's going on here, with kickers and some of the running backs and receivers and so on and so forth. So, and this is a team that's probably going to carry 4 to 5 tight ends, because we talked about Shane Waldron likes that 12-man personnel, even 13-man personnel. So you're going to see 3, 4, maybe 5 tight ends on his roster. So having an offensive lineman that could back up 3 different spots, that's an extra spot open for a tight end or a receiver or a running back, or name the other position that they could fill now because of his versatility. So I think he is the replacement for Cody Whitehair, and I believe that the Bears hopefully will address that interior of the offensive line and solidify it. Because for me, Tevin Jenkins, when he's on the football field, I like the kid, right? Obviously the guy started off. You could say him and I started off on the wrong foot, right? He was drafted as a left tackle. I didn't see that. I didn't like that. I saw him more as a right tackle, right guard. Turns out we are right. He's an interior player.
You are right.
he's phenomenal at right guard. He's pretty good at left guard as well. I think if he stays healthy, I think he's a guy that you could go ahead and earmark for an extension here, because he is a guy that brings that toughness, brings that ability to move guys off their spot with his power and strength, and he's pretty good athletically, but as well. So I think him and whether it's him and Braxton Jones on the left side, or him and Darnell Wright on the right side, I think those guys, whatever you pair him up with, I think he forms a nice formidable combo. He's just got to stay healthy, and that's the biggest thing. Nate Davis for me is a big miss for Ryan Poles in free agency. I know he came highly, touted from Tennessee. I know he had some personal issues last year that kind of got the season off to a rough start, but I just can't get that last game against Green Bay off my mind. I mean, he looked horrible in that game. And I know it's week 17, it's a long season, but he just looked horrible. And so it's something that he's that guy that, for me, if you can upgrade and replace him, and I know the salary and the implication on the salary cap could be tough to do that. But he's a guy, definitely, I have a bullseye on him in terms of getting him off this roster and hopefully replacing him and upgrading at that position.
All right, let's take a look at number 1 on your list, and it is the Duke offensive lineman Graham Barton, who has played guard and center, but you see him as a center in the NFL.
Yeah, actually, this is a guy who's a 3-year starter at Duke. Okay, he's played center. He started 6 games at center. He's also predominantly been a left tackle, but his dimensions are not going to be something that's going to keep him out at the next level at the left tackle position. He's going to be kicked inside, and I think center is a primary spot for him. Again, over 40 starts in his career. Durable kid. Obviously now he's dealing with an injury. He hasn't been able to participate in the Senior Bowl or the Combine because of the injury, but throughout his collegiate career, this kid's been durable. And the thing about him, I talked about that the experience at left tackle and at center. Again, first team All ACC selection. I love his feet. We talked about an athletic kid. This guy got quick feet. He's a natural knee bender, possesses the balance and lateral agility I'm looking for in my offensive lineman, particularly for this scheme. Tough and aggressive. Will look to bury defenders and finish his blocks. And that's the one thing you put this kid's tape on. He's constantly burying guys on the ground. And you guys know me by now from all these years I've been doing this. If I have an offensive lineman that's got some nastiness to him, he is on my list. And this kid definitely has some nastiness to him. Striker with his hands, active, shoots him out quickly in pass protection. Maintains his blocks. I talked about staying engaged while moving laterally. Rangy and fluid in pass protection. He's quick out of his stance, and this is a guy that can get to his set spot quickly and be able to go ahead and set a base, drop his hips, and be able to stop an anchor or anchor and stop a bull rush. So Graham Barton is a guy that is very high on my list. But like I said, without a second round pick, and his range is anywhere between late first to early second round. This is a guy that without a second round pick, unfortunately, I don't think there's an opportunity for the Bears to get this guy.
Oh, well. Okay, so the next guy is also someone that you don't think will be available to the Bears, and that's Troy Fontenot out of Washington.
Yeah, this is a really, really interesting case. And 2-year starter, 31 starts. He started at left tackle and left guard. He's been the left tackle for Washington the last couple of years. 2-time All Pac-12 member. This guy was what I call a people mover. He is aggressive at the line of scrimmage to the point of attack. Especially in the run game, he can get in there, use his legs. He'll flip his hips and he'll get that man in front of him to move off his spot. Good lower body strength to be able to drive defenders. Solid in pass pro sets. Can stay wide and can stay balanced. But this is a guy that a lot of scouts I've talked to see him as a guard at the next level. And I look at his measurements. He doesn't have the height. He's only 6'4". Typically, you want your tackles to be 6'5" and taller. But he's 6'4", 317 with 34.5-inch arm length. So I think he's got the length to be able to play left tackle. He's got the athletic ability and the feet to play left tackle, but a lot of teams see him inside as a left guard. So that's why he's on my list here as a potential inside player. But again, if you're a team that drafts him and you want to stick him out of left tackle, because the kid wants to play left tackle, he's not just giving that up. He'll do whatever the team wants, but I'm saying he prefers to play left tackle. So if you give him a shot to play left tackle and let him fail, that's fine by me, because like I said, he's got the length, he's got the athletic ability, he's got the feet to play left tackle in the NFL. But I think his future will be inside a left guard. But again, a people mover, nasty guy, a guy that can set a tone on your offense as one of your lead offensive linemen.
All right, here's a name that a lot of people are familiar with: Jackson Powers Johnson, the Oregon guard center. A lot of people love this guy. He's like a fire plug. He's just super, super strong, but he has incredibly short arms, even for an interior offensive lineman, man.
Yeah, and now I'm losing my spot here for Jackson Powers Johnson. But again, he's a guy that really caught everyone's eye at the Senior Bowl. Powerful build. 6'3", 328, 32 and a quarter arm length. A 5-star high school recruit, played defensive line and O-line in high school, played both sides of the line, lettered 3 times in baseball and wrestling. So he's got that wrestling background. And a lot of times you hear offensive linemen, especially centers and guards that have that wrestling background. They're very good in terms of their hand placement and leverage, right? Again, played both offense and defense at Oregon, came to Oregon as a defensive lineman, then flipped over to play offense, has started at the center, has started guard, started at right tackle, started at right guard as well. So again, size, powerful frame, strong hands. Talked about that grip strength to be able to go ahead and mix it up with those big guys. Can out leverage defenders, with hand placement and strength. Talk about some of that wrestling background playing effect there. Runs his feet, will use his lower body to go ahead and pin and seal and move defenders off their spot. quick out to the second level, displays the athleticism and quickness you're looking for, especially in a zone scheme, and solid as a pass protector. Displays the awareness, along with the ability to go ahead and drop his hips and again maintain that his ground and take on anchor. So a couple of clips, man. This guy's a fun guy to watch. Just seeing him pull out from that center position and try and take on that defensive end that's pinching or edge defender that's pinching, and he just wipes him out and just sends over him and looks over him. So this is a guy that brings that type of, again, attitude, that nastiness, that power. The versatility is awesome. The guy can play guard and center. So I think, but again, this is another guy that a lot of teams are high upon because of that. We talked about his versatility, his athletic ability, and that strength, and the way he can play center or guard. So again, another guy that's talked about in the first round. We'll see where he goes, but he's definitely late first, early second round guy there.
The next guy on your list, a little trivia here, Zach Frazier was named after Dolphins great Zach Thomas. Frazier's dad was a big Dolphins fan, grew up in Florida, and he named his son Zach Frazier, even though they lived in the Pennsylvania area, and most people there were Steelers fans. What do you got on Zach Frazier, fourth on your list?
Interesting. Yeah, this is another guy. I put his tape on and I said, this is a perfect fit for the Bears at center, right? This kid, a 4-year starter at West Virginia, started at left guard and started at center. Also a 4-time wrestling state champion. So again, we're talking about wrestling backgrounds for these interior guys, and just a natural knee bender at 6'2.5", 314. He's got the agility to shuffle his feet, very good hand placement in both the pass protection and run blocking. He can out leverage, turn, and move defenders off their spot. Stand out in zone blocks, able to chip and seal and then elevate to that second level. Can adjust and maintain his position and blocks while moving laterally on zone runs. Solid balance, wide box, and awareness and pass protection. No issues in terms of shuffling, sliding his feet to mirror, stays nice and square to the pass rusher. Works well with his guard, to protect and keep that quarterback clean in the pocket. Solid, again, in anchoring, maintaining that wide stance, good balance, and hand placement to be able to control a bull rush. So this is a guy, again, for me, is a ideal fit at center for this scheme. Some of the things he needs to work on, obviously, needs to add some play strength to help maintain and be just more powerful at the point of attack, especially when he's anchoring. He's not a people mover, right? He's not a guy like Fatanu, or Jackson Powers Johnson, where he moves guys out the line of scrimmage. He's more of a finesse move blocker. So some teams might not like that. Needs to be more aggressive or assertive on his second level defenders. I like to see him. There's times he looks hesitant in terms of when he gets out to that second level linebacker and maybe like had split second slower or just kind of like not there at full speed, and that guy can slip him and get past him. I just want him to get a little bit more. He's got the athletic ability to get out there. I just want him to be more assertive. So there are things he needs to work on. Not the perfect process, but again, watching him play at West Virginia, putting his tape on, knowing the system, the scheme the Bears are going to be running here with Shane Waldron, I think this guy's a perfect fit here for the Bears in terms of being, their potential center of the future.
All right. The next guy on your list at number 5 is a guy, Jason Kelce just recently retired. He holds the record at the combine for the 3-cone drill. Well, Tanner Bortolini came in second. He's from Wisconsin. He's all yours, Danny.
Yeah, athletics Wisconsin center, and this is a guy I know. Last year, a lot of guys were barflies were hitting me up about Joe Tipman, their center from Wisconsin. I just didn't like the fit with Bear. He's more of a downhill, rugged guy. He went second round with the Jets. I don't think I'm not sure if he started or ended up starting out at the end of the season. But this guy to me is a more athletic center. 3-year starter. He started games at left guard, right guard, and center. Only allowed 1 sack this entire season with over 477 pressure opportunities. Again, we're talking about the size. It's 6'4", 303. Short arms, only 31.5. But again, he's playing center. So that length and the arm length is not really necessary there because you're so much closer to the action there in the middle of the offensive line. Natural knee bender, plays with good balance and agility. You're going to hear that a lot with these guys is guys that can stay on their feet and have balance and agility. Solid hand placement, will battle and reset to gain leverage. Can reach that play side linebacker on zone blocks, can flip his hips into the gap to block any sort of or seal any sort of backside pursuit, especially on those inside zone runs. Can chip and release that second level defender, wall and seal off that second level defender, and again give that clearance for the running back or the ball carrier to run up behind them there. squares up the defender in pass protection. Will lock out, set a wide base, and slide and shuffle his feet. Talking about those feet, very important in terms of pass protection. Now, center isn't as important as left tackle feet, but this guy has the athletic ability in terms of his feet. You used to watch some of those combine drills last week, and you saw the athletic ability, his movement skills. For a guy at over 300 pounds, he's a pretty good athlete. Around a 1.69 10-yard split, which is phenomenal for a guy with that size and those dimensions. So again, some of the things that could knock him down, short arms. You see him sometimes get caught leaning at times. And I think that's because of his short arms. He tends to kind of push out and lean and just doesn't have the opportunity to be able to kind of max out and lock out and block. Not a physical, what I call ass kicker at the line of scrimmage. Again, he's not a drive blocker. He kind of uses more of his athletic ability to go ahead and get in between the defender, kind of seal and wall off the defender. Has to get efficient on that second level blocks in terms of maintaining and sealing. There's times where he gets out there, he gets to the defender, and all of a sudden the defender is able to go ahead and slip his blocks. You want to see him be a little more efficient when he gets to that second level defender. And then there are times where you see on tape quicker twitcher defensive linemen can give him some problems there. So these are things that to me are things that he can work on. But again, Tanner Bortolini really stood out last week at the combine in terms of his athletic ability. And I think another one that fits nicely in the middle of this offensive line. And he's a guy you could probably get in that third, fourth round range. So now we're talking about guys that could be in that Bears range here.
All right. Next on your list at number 6 is Christian Hayes from UConn.
Yeah, this is another guy from the Senior Bowl that really caught my eye. And Hayes is, let me find his profile right here for real quick. Yeah, sure. Hayes is a guy 6'3", 317, 33 and a half inch arm length. Another athletic offensive lineman. And he caught my eye at the Senior Bowl on the one-on-ones, and not for his athletic ability, just more for some of that toughness, his nastiness. And he's going back and forth, and he's grabbing face masks, and he's getting into it with some defensive linemen. And I like that feistiness. So I put on his tape, and then I saw his measurables, and again, another guy that's got that wrestling background. He lettered in wrestling in high school. 4-year starter at right guard for UConn. And ended his collegiate career starting 49 consecutive games. So he's got that durability factor. For me, this is a guy that's tailor-made for a zone scheme system. All right, he's a good size. Talk about the length. Natural athlete, possesses those nifty feet with balance and agility, rangy and fluid when asked to get out in space. So this is a guy when he lead blocks. When he pulls out and lead blocks, he's got the ability to get downfield quickly, and he can reach, whether it's a linebacker or it's a safety or corner coming at him, he can get to it and get to them. You see some of that range and fluidity when he's asked to pull, quick out of his stance. He fires out of his stance. You saw some of the athletic ability right there with that. Fits nicely again as a zone blocker. Quick to that second level. Can impede defenders making plays at the quarterback, at the line of scrimmage by just shuffling and again using his quick feet to be able to get himself in position. We talked about his ability to finish. This is a guy that has no problem, playing through the whistle, right? So he's a guy that although he's not what I would call a nasty player, but he's a guy that has no problem, going through the whistle and letting you know that, he's there to set a physical tone, and he's there to protect his guy. And that's what I think I like about him. So Christian Hayes, again, we're talking about a guy day 3 range here that, could need some time to develop. Got to get a little stronger. He's a guy that gets inverted a lot at the point of attack. So he's got to get a little more stronger there at the point of attack and maintain his footing. But the athletic ability and his ability to get to the next level, and again, the balance and agility is what you're looking for in terms of your guards here at this in this scheme.
At number 7, I was actually a little surprised to see this tackle, Jordan Morgan, on your interior offensive line list. But I did a little research, and Jordan Morgan himself said, hey, I will play at guard, I will play center, I will play anywhere. Put me wherever, I want to play and contribute. So take it away.
Yeah, when I first put on his tape, this is prior to the combine. He's a 3-year starter at Arizona at left tackle. He's got 37 games started. So I had him in one of my tackle buckets, right? And then I looked at measurables, and he came in with 32 7/8 arm length. That is not our arm length that NFL teams want at left tackle. So I think that's the natural fit there. Now is kick him inside at left guard, and that's why he's now on my guard list. And he's a talented kid, right? Was set back in 2022 when he tore his ACL in his right knee. But talk about size, length, feet to play in the NFL. Again, solid lateral agility, can shuffle and slide and pass pro to mirror defenders, solid balance and agility. For someone that size at 300 and plus pounds, 311 pounds for him, plays with leverage and can be able to drive defenders off their spot as a run blocker, can pull and run in space as a lead blocker, very athletic out front, leading for the running back. So, again, athleticism, guys with good balance, natural knee benders, and guys that can preferably get guys off their defenders off their spots and create lanes, creases, seams for running backs to get through. Obviously, some of the negatives on him right now are get stood up. Needs to play with better leverage, and some of that would be just getting a little bit stronger. Again, coming off that torn ACL in 2022, it's a couple years away from that. Maybe he's got to get that knee stronger, just kind of be able to be a little more potent in terms of standing his ground at the point of attack. But that's just weight room stuff. I don't have no problem with him getting in here and getting stronger there. Technique can get out of whack sometimes, and that's something that can be coached up. You can see sometimes his arms drop, his punch isn't there. His feet can get tangled up. So there's technique stuff that an offensive line coach can get this kid in there and kind of clean up. But yeah, in terms of athletic ability, in terms of size, in terms of a guy that could in a pinch, I guess, kick out to left tackle if you need him, because again, he's been a 3-year starter at Arizona in the Pac-12 there as a left tackle, but again, gives you some of that position versatility. But again, athletic move blocker that can kick inside and be a stalwart there on the offensive line.
These next 3 guys, 8, 9, and 10, are 3 players that I really don't know much about. So I'm anxious to hear your evaluation of Penn State center Hunter Norzad.
Yeah, let me pull up Hunter's profile here real quick. Sorry about that. But yeah, Hunter is another guy at the combine. Going through these drills, and a lot of people say, "Oh, what are these underwear Olympics and all that stuff?" And some of these things are not related. But again, when you're looking for athletic players like guys, and whether it's interior defensive lineman or interior offensive lineman, you want guys that are athletes, guys that can move and stay on their feet and maintain their balance. And again, Hunter is one of those guys at 6'3", 317, 33 1/8 arm length. So he's got the good size and good length. Lettered in lacrosse and track in high school. Started his collegiate career at Cornell from 2018 to 2021, starting 20 consecutive games at right tackle. And in the last 2 years, he's been at Penn State, having started both at guard and at center. So again, a guy that gives you position versatility. Like that size, especially for an inside guy, especially for a center. Thick, powerful lower body, plays with that knee bend that I'm talking about. Quick out of his stance, possessing the quick feet and lateral agility that I want in my interior blockers. Athletic to reach to do a reach block on the 3 technique, which is one of the more difficult blocks for an interior offensive lineman to be able to get into. And as soon as you snap the ball, be able to reach the interior 3 technique. That's about 2-3 yards away from you there. So he's got that quickness to be able at the snap to be able to get there and reach that guy. Effective in terms of drive blocking to pin and seal on inside zone double teams. Work really well with the guard. Can reach that second level defender. Can torque and turn them and get them out of the way. Can turn out and work a defensive tackle at the line of scrimmage on outside zone run. So again, this is a guy that might not have the hip flexibility to be able to kind of flip those hips in that gap to kind of seal off or that backside pursuit from the defensive tackle, but he works his way, whether it's hand placement and his feet, to go ahead and get himself in position to go ahead and stop that backside pursuit. So you like that effort there in him as well. Can shuffle and slide. Again, his feet to stay in front of a pass rusher and stay square. Keep his shoulders square there as well. So again, solid at anchoring. But this is a guy. To me, like the more I watched him, the more I again fit scheme. I think played at a Power 5 conference. So I think this is a guy that could come in and compete at center. Obviously, there are things there that he's got to work on. He's a little high cut, so there's something. Sometimes he looks a little awkward in terms of how he moves. But hand punch timing's got to be better. There are times where he allows the defender to get into his torso, because his hands are late, and he's got to be able to get that. But I think that's a coaching technique thing that I think he can get better at. So definitely a lot of upside. And again, a day 3 guy that if you bring in here, whether it's 5th round or whatever area in the day 3 that can come in here and I believe can compete for one of those interior line positions, probably most likely at center.
Very good. The next player on our list is a guy who I just feverishly worked on changing the graphic because I misspelled his name. It's Actually, Nick Stamack, the Michigan State center.
Yeah, and then you talked about Jason Kelsey and him retiring recently, and the more I watched Stamack, the more I saw Jason Kelsey, and where he reminds me of Kelsey is his ability to he's a sudden athlete in terms of at the snap, get out and lead. And you remember Kelsey, all those, where he gets out and he leads with the running back, or if it's for Jalen Hurts as a lead blocker, and he's got that powerful base to be able to run guys over. And this is what Stamack does. And I watch him as Michigan State tape, a 4-year starter, 49 games, 32 starts at center. So he's got that durability, and he's got the experience. He's played over 2,400 snaps in his 5-year career, a 3-time academic All Big Ten selection. I like my centers that are that are academic guys, right? Guys that are smart, guys that are cerebral, guys that can, call out protection, so on and so forth. So the only thing is, he had an injury in his lower left leg. I couldn't find out what it was, but his lower left leg, November 18th versus Indiana, and that was season ending. Hasn't tested at the combine and hasn't done much, since then. But that's the one thing that we got to keep an eye on. But again, the size at 6'4", 307, the quickness, post snap, springs out of his stance, the grip strength, strong hands to be able to torque, turn, and throw defenders, what I call out of the club. I mean, he just grabs them and tosses them to the side. Again, lead blocker, he's terrific there. He jumps out and he out of the gate, he bulldozes anything in his path. So that's, again, going back to the comparison to Jason Kelsey. Aggressive, releasing to the second level defender on these zone blocks. Head on a swivel and pass pro. Like he's cognizant in terms of who's coming free. Are there any stunts, any loops going on in the middle on the defensive line? So his head is always on a swivel. He's always looking to see if there's a free rusher coming. If not, he's looking for work, meaning that he's going to go and help his tackle or go help his guard if they need help and chip and all that stuff. So you like that about him as well on your center. Again, a guy that can anchor, that can take on a bull rush, shoots, and he wins that inside chest with his hands, and it controls and stalls that power rusher. Again, plays with an aggressive, tough demeanor, and another one that will finish his blocks. And I think the more I watch Nick Stamack at Michigan State, the more I like this kid. So again, not a guy that's gonna probably go in the day 1 or day 2, more of a day 3 guy, but a guy that you can bring in here, and next thing you know, within a year or two, he's your starting center.
Before you get to the 10th guy on your list, Mason McCormick, how do you see the depth on this draft for interior offensive linemen? So if the Bears, reacquired a 5th round pick, a 6th round pick, do you think, I doubt any of these top 10 guys will be there, but beyond that, do you think that there could be a decent player that we can add to the interior offensive line and perhaps develop?
Although last week, Jordan and I talked about when we were creating our top 10 edge players, that we were trying to find players to add to that list. We were trying to find traits that we liked. I had players I had to wrestle with leaving off this list. This is a very, very good draft for offensive linemen, right? Specifically interior offensive linemen. So yes, that's why the Bates trade kind of, to me, is a little bit of a head scratcher. Like, I understand he's a veteran. I understand they tried to sign him 2 years ago, but I think you're going to find guys in the 4th and 5th round of this draft where you can potentially come in and develop them and start. Maybe they're not going to be ready day 1, or week 1, but I think these are guys that you can get in the program and develop. Now, I know a lot of scouts have told me that that this is a draft that in the 5th, 6th, 7th round, you're probably going to be drafting a lot of priority free agents because of the lack of depth. A lot of the guys, the COVID guys, have taken advantage of that, have stayed an extra year. Some of those guys that were supposed to be in this draft are now staying for the 5th year, so on and so forth. So, some have said that. Going through the list of players, going through the tape, I think you can find guys in the 4th, 5th round, day 3 that can come in and be effective. And again, interior offensive lineman is deep for me. Receiver is deep for me. Running back is okay. There's some spots there. If you're looking for certain traits on a running back group, I think you can find them there in day 3 as well. So, this sets up perfectly for the Bears, in my opinion, in terms of interior offensive line, that group as a whole, and receiver, 2 major needs for the Bears. And I think, they should come out of this draft, hopefully, with at least 2 receivers and 1 or 2 of these, interior offensive linemen.
Very good. All right, let's talk Mason McCormick.
Okay, guys, I'm going to say this guy does. I talked about the athletic ability and all that stuff early on, and This guy that doesn't fit that to a T. But I saw he first caught my eye at the East West Shrine practices, and it's a practice, and I see this guy burying defenders in practices, and I'm like, who is this guy from South Dakota State? So I put on his tape, and Mason McCormick, 6'4", 309, 33.78 arm length, almost 34-inch arms. He's a 4-year starter at South Dakota State at left guard. Right, has started 57 consecutive games for South Dakota State. Durable as heck. FCS All-American in 2021 and 2022. A team captain for the last 3 years at South Dakota State, and then goes to the combine, runs a 5.08 which I'm not really too. I don't look at those 40s like I got over them or anything like that. But the 171 10-yard split is impressive, and that's that first 10 yards. That shows the ability to jump out of your stance and be athletic. And Kim goes and does a 35.5-inch vertical, a 9'9" broad jump. The 3-cone is 7.59, which alludes to some of that lower body stiffness he has. But again, we're talking about a guy with size, length for an interior offensive lineman, durable, strong hands and grip, can torque and turn defensive lineman at the point of attack, can get out and pull as a lead blocker through that hole or destroy pinching defensive ends at the end of the line of scrimmage. This is a guy that plays with an attitude. He plays with nastiness. And although you've been doing this with me for years now, and you know, if I have an offensive lineman that plays with attitude and nastiness, and he's not a total, for lack of a better word, total, like out of shape guy out there, he's a guy that I'm going to put on my list. Right. So, and talk about this guy gets to that second level. All right, he positions himself well, using, again, his hands, his strength to be able to get to those second and third level defenders, and again, buries them. Whenever he's got a chance to bury somebody, he will bury them. Solid in terms of anchoring. We'll set up wide and again, use his ability to lock out his arms with that balance and his core strength to go ahead and stop the anchor. Again, just the nastiness, the attitude he's going to bring to your offensive line. He's going to play guard, probably left guard, in my opinion. But definitely a guy that brings that attitude, that nastiness, the guy that, again, 3-year team captain, South Dakota State. I could see him, within a year or two taking over that offensive line and being that type of leader. I don't want to compare him to Owen Kutz because he's not that type of an athlete, but he gets that type of demeanor, that type of toughness. That's what he would bring. And I saw him at the East West Shrine game. I watched his tapes. And and he's got some athletic. Now, some are going to say he's probably better suited for more of a power gap scheme, but he's got some athletic ability where, he's a better straight line athlete, meaning going north and south, and he's going east and west, but he's not a slouch by any means in terms of, athletic ability. So I think he's a guy that could find a home there at guard. And again, just that nastiness and that toughness that he'll bring to the offensive line. The Bears have been missing that since Owen Kutz left. I think Tevin Jenkins is trying to bring some of that back, but again, you can't do it if you're not on the football field for 17 weeks of the season. So I think this is a guy that gives you that toughness, and I just had to add him. I had to add him on there, and I want to talk to him because I want you guys to remember his name, Mason McCormick, South Dakota State. He's a guy that eventually one year you guys are going to be watching the game and you're going to see a guy do something nasty, and it's probably going to be Mason McCormick doing that to a defender in the NFL.
I'll try to find him and see if we can get him on the show. All right. Cliff Victoria asks, where are the draft projections for these guys? And Hair Bear, I think, accurately said number 1, number 2, and number 3 are all first rounders. Do you think that Frazier is a second rounder?
Yes, Frazier, second round. I think that the first 4 guys are late first, or mid to second round area. Tanner Bortolini might have kind of vaulted himself in that talk as well, but I had him coming into the combine as a 4th rounder, Bortolini that is. But then you see some of the athletic ability. Maybe he'll jump up into the 3rd round. We'll see. But again, unless the Bears recoup a second round pick somehow, some way, yeah, those first 4 guys are probably not going to be in the mix there. But I couldn't make a top 10 list and leave 4 of the better offensive linemen off the list. So I try to get you guys some guys that in a day 3 more realistic, more realistic guys you can probably get there.
Mm-hmm. Very good. All right, so let us regroup here, Danny, and then when we come back for our final segment, you and I will talk about free agents. Of course, there's a lot of movement in the NFL today regarding free agents. We'll talk about some of those names, talk about perhaps targets that you'd like the Bears to pursue, and everyone in the chat room, let us know about free agents you'd like us to talk about and consider for the Chicago Bears. We'll be right back after this 30-second break. All right. Before we get to that topic of free agents, you teased us at the start of the show about a rumor that you heard, and you said it was regarding the quarterback position. So what's going on here?
So, again, this is lying season, right? Greg has said it multiple times. We have said it multiple times. It just take what you hear with a grain of salt. All right. So that there's someone that I've known that works in the NFL that I was just trying to text messaging with, just kind of doing some cross checking some players. And he said that he goes, you want to hear something crazy? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, sure. I'm always up for something crazy. And so apparently, we all talked about prior to going this whole draft process starting, was it keep Justin and draft Caleb, right? Keep Justin or draft Caleb. I think you and I are both adamant, keep Justin, build around him. But I'm unfortunately, I think that ship has sailed. I think the Bears are moving on. I think it's just a matter of time before they trade Justin. So now it's not keep Justin and trade Caleb. It's trade Justin. It's either draft Caleb or draft and now I just dropped
Jaden Daniels.
All of a sudden, his name just left my mind. But Jaden Daniels from LSU, and I'm like, okay. And I saw, all right. So I've talked about these two guys, both very talented. They are my top two quarterbacks, by the way. Caleb is one, and Jaden Daniels is number two, and then Drake May is third. So. And the difference for me is in terms of arm talent, I think Caleb is above everyone else because of the fact of not only because he has a strong arm, Jaden Daniels got a strong arm as well, but his ability to do off platform, his ability to recoil and reload. He'll have the ball down here by his hip, and next thing you know, he'll look up and he'll release it, and it's a 60-yard bomb on target downfield. That's elite type of arm talent is what I talk about. And Jaden's got a strong arm as well. The difference between the two right now is Caleb is not a structured offense quarterback, right? So what I mean by that is last year or a couple of years I've been saying, why isn't Justin looking at this receiver at a crossing route and not pulling the trigger? Because it's just not natural to him. He's a guy, Caleb, that does the same thing. I watch his tape. There's guys going across the middle of the field. He'll look, he'll hold it, and then he'll just try and get out of the pocket and then try and make a play happen. Now he's got that quick release that, like I talked about, he can find guys on field and make plays. Great. Jaden is more of a structured offense guy. He's a guy, 1, 2, 3, back foot hits, ball is out. He'll throw it to a spot. Now he's got great talent around him, right? He's got Malik Neighbors. He's got Brian Thomas. He's got some other athletes around him that it works. And, he's a guy that put up great numbers. It's 1 year. It's a great number at 1 year. But then everybody goes back to, well, Joe Burrow did it for 1 year. Remember, Joe Burrow coming into his last season was a third, day 3 pick, 4th round pick, 5th round pick. Had a great season with great talent around him. Next thing you know, look, Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. The structured offense quarterback, if you're looking for that, if you're Shane Waldron, you're looking for a guy that can play in a structured offense, it's Jaden Daniels, right? Mm-hmm. Caleb Williams is going to come in and he's going to have to get coached up. He's going to have talent. He has men's talent, but he's going to have to get coached up. Mm-hmm. So the thought process from this guy I'm kind of rambling here, but the thought process is if you're Ryan Poles and you're given, in Washington, supposedly their plan, again, it's a lying season. Their plan is go after Kirk Cousins. They want that veteran. They've got the most cap money of all teams. If they miss out on Kirk Cousins and he goes to Atlanta, where his wife is from, or he stays in Minnesota, their thing is to go after the number 1 pick. And if they come after the number 1 pick with 3 or 4 first round picks with, 2 second round picks, a boatload of whatever you want, the mother load of draft offer.
Right.
Polls would consider moving down to number 2, taking all those picks, taking Jaden Daniels. Now the thing with Jaden Daniels is, he might need a year to kind of just, obviously he didn't get measured at the combine, right? What does that tell us? Last year, Bryce Young didn't get weighed in as well because everyone was talking about his weight. Daniels is real thin, so now they're thinking about maybe Daniels could be trying to inflate his weight for his pro day, so on and so forth. Anyway, whatever it is, take Daniels, sit him for a season, and bring in Russell Wilson for like a 1-year deal. Russell Wilson has the background with Shane Waldron, went to the Pro Bowl with Seattle with Shane Waldron. Russell Wilson's going to come in and take the veteran minimum at $1.2 million because he's going to make Denver pay most of that salary. Now you have Russell Wilson here for 1 year, and you let Jaden Daniels sit down for a year, and now you have all this draft capital, and now you build the team around Jaden Daniels. Told you it was crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy scenario. And, one of the things regarding Russell Wilson that broke, I think it was today, maybe late yesterday, Kyle Mecklenburg, the Denver Broncos all-star player, a legendary player at that organization, he had some unkind things to say about Russell Wilson, said, the stuff that the team had to put up with in his first year, Russell Wilson's first year with Denver last season. He had a private coach. He had special access for his family into the locker room and practice and some stuff that other players didn't get. That was just one of the many things that alienated him in the clubhouse. And if we remember, when he was at Seattle, Russell Wilson, he didn't make many friends, especially on the defense. Richard Sherman was a guy who was outspoken about Russell Wilson's lack of leadership. So to me, Russell Wilson is a little bit radioactive. I do like the scenario. I've heard that Daniels is a better system fit, that Daniels is the type of guy who could take a 3-step back, plant that back foot, and then fire the ball, unlike Caleb Williams, who will take a 3-step back, plant that back foot, and if he doesn't see anybody open, or even if he sees somebody open, he'll start to scramble because he wants a 50-yard play, not a 15-yard play. So It's a very, very interesting scenario you brought up there.
See, like for me though, if I'm the GM, I think we've talked about it before, although like I would just take Caleb Williams, right, number 1, because if you get funky and you try to get cute, this is where you're going to end up hurting yourself. Right now, Drake May might be the better quarterback of this whole group. Jaden Daniels might be the better quarterback of this whole group. Who knows how these guys develop? And it all depends on where they go, the system, the surroundings, everything else, right? But if you're going to miss on a number 1 overall pick, I'd miss on the consensus number 1 overall pick. For example, Jacksonville, right? Trevor Lawrence was the guy. He was the generational guy since he was a freshman in Clemson. Trevor Lawrence is not a generational quarterback. He might be a good quarterback, right? Yeah. But no one's going to knock Jacksonville for taking Trevor Lawrence because everyone would have taken Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. So that's where I think if you're Ryan Poles and whoever, if Washington trades up for number 1 pick, you got to take the consensus number 1 pick. And by far, the majority of the NFL thinks that Caleb Williams is the number 1 pick. So that's what I would do. Even though, like I said, it could be wrong down the line. Jaden Daniels could very well be. And we haven't talked about, we just talked about his athletic ability. His ability as a runner with the football is electric. I mean, he's got to get down and get out of bounds. But talk about just a guy that can take the ball and go 50, 60 yards and score on you. It gives you that element as well. So that's another thing that about Jaden Daniels that excites a lot of people in the NFL.
Yeah, well, before we start free agents, my last question for you on that topic is, haven't you been playing around with the idea of making Jaden Daniels the number 1 quarterback on your top 10 list?
I have thought about it, yes, guys, because going off of tape from last year, Jaden Daniels has better tape. I mean, you go and you see his ability. Now, there are throws down the field that are a little bit off target, but he's got great weapon downfield, the Brian Thomases, the Malik Neighbors that can adjust and make plays for him. But again, that next level in terms of running with the football. I mean, again, the athletic ability, the arm talent, throwing it to a spot, throwing a receiver open. He gives you all that. He has a better tape, but to me, the better overall prospect, if you take everything into consideration, the body of work, I think it's still Caleb Williams. And my main concern with Caleb Williams was his measurement. Me and quarterbacks that are 6 feet and under. Now he came in at 6'1" and a half, almost 6'2". So I think he passed that test there. The media stuff, I was told prior to the season, this guy is more of a me guy than a we guy. That's from what we've seen so far. It's not true. I've talked to a friend of mine who's scout on the West Coast team, and he said that scouts were sitting there at USC, and I think it was like October, November sometime. And Williams walks in and he just has introduced himself, says, "Hey, I just want to let you know that all the stuff that's out there wasn't said by me. That it's just not, unless you hear from me, it's not me." So he's trying to, I guess, set the record straight, if you will, back in October with some of these, these NFL scouts, just to let them know that, that he's a guy, and that all the stuff that you hear around him might be his team, might be his dad. And that's the one thing that I know Greg has touched on in terms of his dad, that could be an issue, with his contract and some of that other stuff. So we'll see how that works out. But just the talent wise itself, and just the way he carries himself, you can see in those interviews that he carries himself as a guy that expects to be a superstar. Now, whether it's going to be that or not, who knows? But yes, going back to your original question, although Jaden Daniels had a damn good season last year, that added running ability is very, very tempting. But I'm going to stick to Caleb Williams as my number 1 overall quarterback in this draft.
Very good. By the way, the USC Pro Day is
March 20th.
March 20th. And on March 20th, we're going to have a special guest who does a USC podcast, the official USC podcast for the Trojans, where he's going to be our guest. He's going to tell us what he saw at that pro day, and also give us some background information about Caleb Williams that perhaps we have not heard. So that's our guest the very same day.
The one thing I haven't been able to confirm is the reports. Someone reported, I forgot who did that the Bears wanted Caleb to come in the day after the combine to take a physical. Right. He or his team wanted to push it to after the pro day. So
correct.
I'm not sure. And again, this was all running through my head in terms of, can Ryan Poles trade Justin Fields without giving Caleb a physical? But then I heard this thing where it's not anymore of keeping Justin. It's either going to be Caleb or Jaden Daniels. That's a decision they're going to come down to. So if that's the case, then it doesn't really matter because if something wrong on his medical or his checkup, then they can go to Jaden Daniels. So but that's something also I was curious to see why that was pushed back after the pro day. Was that Caleb? Was that his team? Was that the Bears? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Vizzo Joe is correct here. He says it was actually a mutual agreement. The Bears initially wanted Caleb to come to Halisaw on the day after the combine, but Caleb, I think, said, "You know what? I'd rather do it later. I'm flying home east to Washington," and the Bears said, "Totally cool. It's fine." They decided not to make a big deal out of it, and Caleb is working with his team to try to avoid taking physicals with as many teams as possible. He didn't, as you know, and everyone knows, I think, he didn't do it at the combine. He said, I don't want my medical records available to 32 teams. You wouldn't want your medical records available to the neighborhood. So I don't blame him for that. And I think we're going to see more and more of that from a lot of NFL players. And then he said, why should I do a physical for the Kansas City Chiefs? I'm just going to do a physical for a handful of teams who have a shot at getting me. And so he'll do that. He'll definitely do that for the Bears. I know there was some speculation in the chat room earlier saying, do you think he needs to flush some system out like THC, some marijuana smoke? Who knows?
It's legal here anyway. So, but
right.
I think for me, that didn't bother me, to be honest with you, because that makes sense, right? Like, why would you? And a lot of times, how many times we've seen guys stuff get leaked, right, in the media about a guy's physical, and it could be team 32 who has no shot at him, but they just want to kind of drop his stock, or team 7 wants him to drop down. And, so, let's not do that. He's going to give the Bears a physical. He's going to give the Washington Commanders a physical, the Giants a physical. Whoever has a chance to come up and get him, he's going to give him a physical. I think that's fine. The more important, or the more, I think, egregious, if you will, I don't even think it's that egregious, is Marvin Harrison Jr. just totally blowing off the whole entire combine, the media stuff, the weigh-in and all that stuff, and just meeting with the representatives of the team, because he says, I'm not going to go and train to run a combine 40 when I don't. That's not what I need in the football field. I'm going to train to be a football player. And I think that's a more of a brash and a different kind of approach. So I think, but only certain players could actually get away with that, right?
Absolutely.
Talk about a guy like Ryan tonight. Guys trying, he's gonna probably a day 3 guy, but I'm saying like guys that are in a late first, late early second, and want to get into that first round, and like Keon Mitchell, the corner from Toledo, had a great Senior Bowl week and just wanted to come here and just kind of continue that and just went and blew away the combine with the skills and the drills and all that stuff. And I think he's now cemented himself top 15 picks. So guys like that won't be able to get away with it. But, guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Caleb Williams, I think those guys are might try to do that in the future. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right. There is one other question that just popped up here, and I want to share with you. Jay Sanders says, so why don't they let Justin negotiate trades like they have with Zach Wilson? Today, Adam Schefter reported that Russell Wilson has been given a few days to try to work out a deal for himself. Why are the Bears, Jay Sanders asked, why are they holding him hostage? I think that's a really good question. If they were all in, I heard from somebody 2 days ago that the Bears still could be throwing a curveball at everyone and that they will keep Justin and instead to trade the number 1 overall pick. I heard that story from a fairly reliable insider. But it does seem like if they're not giving Justin the opportunity to work out a trade, then what are they doing here? Why are they holding him hostage, as Sanders says?
Well, I mean, nothing will make me happier, to believe it or not, if the Bears would just say, you know what, Justin's our quarterback. We're going to trade a pick and we're going to build around him. I'd be ecstatic, right? But if you're Ryan Poles, right, and you come out and say we're going to do right by Justin, that you're already inferring or referring to the fact that you're looking to trade Justin, right? If he's your franchise quarterback, you don't do that, especially publicly, because now he's got to come back and he's got to face that. Were you almost traded? Do you know what happened? Blah blah blah. Like, you don't want. He already went through hell for the last couple of years, facing the media in terms of all the questions about his future and all that stuff. You don't want him to come back after this, and now where everybody has him traded basically, and I was going to come back. So I find it hard to believe that he's going to be back. That's why I said earlier, the ship has sailed for us in terms of him being the quarterback and building around him. So in terms of why not allow him to, guys, we're hearing reports that there's no interest or interest isn't that great in Justin Field. We don't know that Ryan Poles doesn't already have a trade done. He could already have it could be, all right, team A says, all right, if I don't get this guy, bam, we got this. Or team B says, I want Justin for this. So Ryan Poles might already have a trade. He traded a 5th-round pick for a backup offensive lineman. Obviously, maybe he's got something there where he's going to recoup that pick and more, right? In another trade. So I don't know right now that he doesn't have something set up, and I don't know if he has something set up. But I don't know. I just to give him his permission, because I also don't know if they've made the decision in terms of who they want to select, right? So I think they're just trying to keep all their options open. They're trying to be secretive in terms of what their plans are going to be, even though 99% of the NFL believes that they're going to go ahead and trade Justin and pick a quarterback. So we'll see what happens.
It was interesting. I think it was Brad Biggs that reported this in his 10 Thoughts column. He said that he wrote that Ryan Poles, as the combine went on, was walking around like a very confident guy. That wasn't walking around like there was the weight of the world on his shoulders. And he even had a one of those golf simulators with the screen put into his hotel suite, and that's what he was using to, relax. So this appears to be a guy who maybe does have things kind of mapped out and feeling very confident about the transactions he's going to be making very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think he did look relaxed. A couple of times we see him on TV. It was it the Friday after the combine last year in which he made that trade. We traded the first overall pick, so we'll see if anything happens this Friday. Right, that'll be the first Friday after the combine. So, they only have they have 5 picks now, right? I think they have the 2 firsts, a 3rd, and then 2 4th-round picks. I obviously, with all the holes still on this team, I would think that Ryan Poles is going to want more picks, right? So what that either means Justin, or that means you're trading the first overall pick and you're getting a boatload of draft picks. So I would believe there's something up his sleeve. Obviously, we'll see next Monday is when the legal tampering window opens up, and I think more things will probably leak out from there.
Yeah, we'll be hearing a lot starting this weekend. So, all right, let's turn our attention to free agency. There was big news today. A number of teams made some substantial cuts probably the team that made the biggest news on their cuts were the Buffalo Bills. They released about $40 million in salaries today, maybe a little less than that. I know they were $40 million in the hole, so I'm not quite sure that they're totally there, but they released cornerback Tre'Davious White, who's an excellent cornerback, although he did miss most of last season. Safety Jordan Poyer and center Mitch Morse were the three big names that were released. Any of those three players, Danny, strike your interest?
Yeah, actually, Jordan Poyer does strike my interest. Now I know he had no interceptions last year, maybe a little bit of a down season, but 2 years ago he was a Pro Bowler with 4 interceptions. A year prior to that, he was a All Pro. I think he had 5 interceptions, I believe. So this is a guy that makes plays on the football. We talked about guys that can get the ball and create turnovers. And then my question was, with Eric Washington here now, having come from Buffalo, being defensive coordinator with the Bears, seeming and needing a need in the secondary at safety after cutting Eddie Jackson, could there be a fit there where they can bring him in for a veteran, not a big contract, but something that's reasonable where you can then plug Jordan Poyer in there next to Jaquan Brisker. So I think that's one player. Now, and then going back to our original or our previous question, like if they're cutting all these players, like you don't think they would have cut Ryan Bates in his $4 million, and you could have saved the 5th round pick?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Danny, and particularly because they also cut the center, Mitch Morse,
right.
And so that to me tells me these guys were gone, and we may have spent a 5th round draft pick on a guy who was going to be walking on the street. This really is concerning to me.
And these things like this, although as when I go back to Ryan Poles and I don't have that belief in him like a lot of our listeners, a lot of other people in the media do. That he doesn't. He forever one step forward, he takes 2 steps back. And I think again, I don't know the reasoning. I don't know what the thinking was and all that stuff. So, but just stuff like this kind of makes me step back and say, is this guy you want to trust with? This is the offseason to reshape this organization. And
the biggest offseason we've had in Bears history, at least since I've been alive. And I've been following the team since 1968. In 69, they lost the coin flip for the 1st overall pick and lost out on Terry Bradshaw. So I'm familiar with big off seasons, and this is bigger than all of them. Now, Cliff says Poles really likes Bates. He tried to sign him 2 years ago, but nonetheless, even if you get into a little bit of a bidding war, he's probably going to make less than what the Bills contract was.
Unless he had an inclination that he was not going to sign here, or unless he was going to go sign somewhere else, or if maybe they weren't going to cut him. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating because of all the fat they trimmed off the roster today. You would think that another $4 million for a backup offensive lineman could be something they would go through. So we'll never know the truth, but it's just something that makes me think there.
Yeah, when I saw that Mitch, the center Morse was cut, I said, "Holy shit, this is weird." They've devastated their offensive line now that Bates and Morse are gone. All right, so let's take a look at some of the other centers who are available since we're on the subject of centers. I got a graphic here. Okay, Lloyd Cushenberry, Coleman Shelton, Mitch Morse, as we said, Andre James, Aaron Brewer, Connor Williams, Evan Brown, who played with Shane Waldron. Who do you like here?
Well, obviously Lloyd Cushenberry III is the premier guy. He's a guy that they're talking about between $10 and $11 million in terms of annual salary. The Broncos center there. So for me, what I would go ahead and get Evan Brown, and he's a guy that's a veteran. I believe he's 27 years old. You talked about he's with Seattle, been with Shane Waldron, and I think he's a guy that can come in here and take over that center spot. Might not be great, right? It might not be, but he's going to be adequate at best. But he's a guy that knows the system, knows the protection calls, can help out if you have a rookie quarterback back there. Help him out in his progression there as well. So the key is he knows the system, he knows the scheme, be it like fitting right in with the glove. So I think that's the guy that I would earmark, and then pick one of these guys in that day 3 range with that 3rd round pick or something like that, or third or 4th round pick, and pick one of these centers and develop and groom them too as well. So I know Doug Kramer's still on this team, the 3rd-year player from Illinois. I'm not sure what this coaching staff thinks of him, but that's another option there at center. But yeah, for me, it's like, I don't know if I want to pay $10, $11 million for Lloyd Cushenberry. I think I would just kind of take Evan Brown at whatever he gets at $5, $6, $7 million and plug him in there for a year or two and get someone in day 3 and just kind of develop him.
Very good. Okay, so now let's turn to another position. We were just talking about the safety position. Here are the free agents alongside Jordan Poyer. There. Let me see if I can get this full screen. Yeah, I think I can. Nope, I can't. Anyway, Xavier McKinney is a guy who I am really interested in, as well as Julian Blackman. Tell me, first of all, before you talk about any of these names, what's your kind of philosophy on signing a free agent safety? Are you going to go middle of the road cheap, or you want to sign, a blue chipper, so to speak?
Although my feelings on safeties right now, right? You know that it's all about the front seven for me, man. And again, you need a veteran back there. I'm not saying it can be just anybody. You can't. We went through that phase, right? Remember with Lovie Smith and it was all Falava and some of all these guys they pluck off the street. Harris was not Harris. What's the kid's name? Number 43. Was it Green? I think it was another safety. Like these guys they pluck in the fourth, fifth round and just never worked out, right? But again, you just need someone that's smart, that has an ability to read and diagnose, and especially a guy that can get his hands on the football. And to go pay big money for a safety, when you have holes up front still, like an edge rusher, an interior defensive lineman, it's just to me, it's not the prudent thing to do, right? If you're stacked and your team is your front seven is all good, all you need is that kick-ass safety. Then okay, all right, you can go and make a play for a safety, no big deal. But I wouldn't do that. And some of these guys here, like I love Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, but again, he's a guy that's going to cost a lot of money. Xavier McKinney's going to cost a lot of money, and he hasn't really done much in terms of the production. I think he's a first-round pick for the Giants, and done much. Cameron Curl is an interesting guy. He might command more than I'll be willing to pay. But again, the salary cap did go up about $30 million, so you have a little bit more money to pay there. Cameron Curl is a guy, the 7th-round pick, has really done a great job in terms of coming in and being a productive starting safety for Washington there. Talked about Jordan Poyer, the veteran, knows Eric Washington from his days in Buffalo. That could be a match there. A guy that won't look for a big payday. Hopefully he doesn't look for a big payday. Julian Blackman is interesting. He's a guy coming out of Utah, was a corner, flipped over to safety. He's been really good in terms of ball protection. His inability to stay healthy has been his problem with the Colts. So I think that's why he's becoming available. Jordan Fuller from the Rams, he was on their defensive the Super Bowl team a couple years ago, so he gives you some of that added experience in terms of championship experience. Geno Stone coming off of a career 7 interception season, I think he's going to command top dollar. Jordan Whitehead has always been a guy that's been solid in the league. I think it was with the Bucs initially, last year's with the Jets. But again, I don't know in terms of how much he's going to cost. And Micah Hyde is interesting as well. Another, obviously, the pairing with Jordan Poyer. Those two guys were pretty dynamic there for Buffalo. But again, he's a guy that's been through a lot of injuries, right, the last couple of years. So, is he someone that might be at the end of his career? Could you risk bringing him in and maybe him getting hurt? So, of those guys we have there, I mean, Cameron Curl interests me. Jordan Poyer interests me on a low veteran deal, and then Julian Blackman if we can and Jordan Fuller if we can get those guys on low make good kind of deals because some of them have had some injury concerns. I think I'd be interested in that as well.
I was in love with Jeremy Chin when he came out. You and I saw him down at the Senior Bowl, and his NFL career. He started off really well, but it's curtailed a little bit. I wonder if he could be looked at as a bargain price, kind of a 1-year prove it deal. He could turn into be a gem.
Chin also a local guy. I believe he went to Southern Illinois, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's been that tweener kind. He's the guy. Remember that the phase was having that hybrid player, whether it's that half linebacker, half safety. I think that's what Chin was. And he was a more athletic player than they typically are, and he was besieged by injuries as well with Carolina. And then there was a switch in terms of defensive coordinator, and I think he kind of fell out of favor there as well. So his career kind of took a turn there. But he's more of that in the box, extra safety. And I think that's where Brisker is more comfortable at. So I think if you're going to bring in someone to play with Brisker, well, these safeties have to be interchangeable. There's no longer that free safety and that box safety, strong safety. These guys are interchangeable. I would like someone with some more range and an ability to sit back there, whether it's cover 2 or single high, and give Brisker the opportunity to get closer to the line of scrimmage where he's seemingly more effective.
Indeed. Okay, let's go back over to the other side of the ball. Big news was made today with the news about Saquon Barkley. So, of course, millions of Bears fans took to social media and said, sign Saquon Barkley. I see you already shaking your head. No, your thoughts on Saquon Barkley and any of the other running backs on this list?
Although I think safety and running backs are two positions I do not want to spend money on. And you just brought both of them up here. I don't know if you did it on purpose or it was just the accident, but I don't want to spend money on a running back. You know, I know you have Khalil Herbert and you have Rashawn Johnson. You can draft one in day 3 of the draft. You have the 75th pick. If you want, you can use that pick. If you want on a running back, get a good one. If you get someone, a veteran that's coming off of a season where he wants a 1-year prove it deal, I could see that, right? I mean, maybe a Tony Pollard not coming. You had a disappointing season with Dallas. Maybe he wants to come in here, gives you the element of speed, is a very good pass catcher. Maybe a 1-year, $8 million contract for to make it so you can parlay that hopefully into a bigger deal. I could do that, and I'll live with that. DeAndre Swift I think had a pretty good year. If I'm not mistaken, he might have made the Pro Bowl. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yeah, I think he's going to command some money there. I obviously Saquon Barkley, I think he's a guy that's going to get the biggest contract of all these guys. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to give Saquon Barkley $10 to $11 million a season for the next 2 or 3 years. So I just don't want to do that. And obviously Henry, I think everyone from everything you heard, he's hightailing it to Baltimore to play with Lamar Jackson. Josh Jacobs was a guy that's interesting, but again, young enough and productive enough where I think he might get a multi-year big money deal. Big money meaning 10 or more $1 million. Again, so picking and choosing here who you could pick for a 1-year deal, make it, kind of prove it deal and kind of parlay that into a bigger deal. I can go for that, but not getting Barkley and giving him, $10 to $11 million a year for the next 3 or 4 years. No.
Yeah, the thing about Barkley is he did have over 1,000 yards of from the line of scrimmage. So he's that kind of running back that would be nice for the Bears to have, a really good, reliable pass catcher and a guy that can get you tough yards and also to turn the corner. But like you say,
go ahead.
Say again.
Finish. No, finish.
I was just going to say, as you say, players with so many miles on them at the running back position is just too risky. He's going to easily want over $10 million, and he probably deserves it. But I saw that injury that he suffered at Soldier Field, and then the very next season he had another injury. Those players, to me, are just way too risky.
Plus, and we know with Shane Waldron from Seattle days, he likes that multi-running back room, right? He likes, he had Kenneth Walker, and then they draft Zach Charbonnet. So he's got a shiftier, quicker back in Walker, and then he got that in-between tackle pounder, downhill pounder in Zach Charbonnet, right? They can both catch out of the backfield and all that stuff. So, I think with Shane Waldron coming in here, the way he utilizes his personnel, I think you're going to probably draft or bring in a veteran, maybe, in between tackles, kind of Dante Foreman light, if you will, and add to the room. But I don't think you're going to go and spend big money on a running back, and I don't think you should.
All right. Let's talk pass rushers. We are in need of a pass rusher opposite Montez Sweat, and the big name. Let me see if I can get this full frame for us. I had to squeeze it in here and change some of the wording. Danielle Hunter, of course, is the prize of this free agency class. A lot of people might say Chase Young. And the one guy that I got my eye on is Andrew Van Gelke. I was really impressed with his play when he came in the middle of the season for the Dolphins and on Hard Knocks. The way the coaching staff talked about him was glowing, and his effort and his mean-spirited on the field play. He's somebody to take a look at. Take a look at those names, Danny. Tell me who you like.
You just want Van Ginkel because of his long blonde hair. You just want those locks flowing at Soldier Field. Just admit it.
Who do we have on the Bears who has locks like that? Nobody. Come on, it's time to bring back.
What you want is you want Van Ginkel at defensive end. You want Sam Hartman in your quarterback room with that long black, hair.
No, he's way too attractive for me.
But no, I mean, this is for me is priority number one, and I've been talking about this since the season, and I'm like, I love Montez Sweat. And when that trade was made, I'm like, you're not going to get anybody in the second round better than Montez Sweat. So that was a good trade there. You need speed. You need speed off the edge opposite of Montez Sweat. And we talked about the edge class last week, Jordan and I, and it's slim pickings. Right after the first 3 guys, And even the first three guys, they're not perfect fits. They would do, right? They'd help, but they're not ideal fits. And taking a look at this list, obviously Hunter is a guy I think is going to command a lot of money, 29 years old. I'm not sure I want to go there. Great player, but again, I'm not sure I want to go there. Greenyard is a guy that's a young player. I believe he's 27 years old, if I'm not mistaken. 26 years old. 26 years old, coming off a 12.5 sack season last year with Houston. He intrigues me a lot. But, again, what's his payday going to be? Bryce Huff, he gets knocked for the fact that he's not a run stopper. And, again, that's what I'm talking about. I know he's not a run stopper. I want speed. I want a pass rusher that's going to come off the edge, opposite of Montez Sweat, that's going to get me sacks. And he had, I think, 10 sacks. 25 years old in a limited role, like a situational pass rusher, 10 sacks for the Jets. He's a guy that intrigues me a whole lot. And it's just a matter of how much is his salary going to be. We talked about Dorian Armstrong is a guy that quietly has done a very good job at Dallas, being at one of those rotational defensive ends, 26 years old, 7.5 sacks last year. He's a guy, but from all we heard, he's earmarked already for Washington and going with Dan Quinn there to replace the two guys that they traded last year. So I think he might already be gone. But and then we talk about guys in the lower tier, the third tier, right? Like Leonard Floyd. Again, people are like, well, roll their eyes, not this again. But guys, Leonard Floyd is a better player now than he was when he was with the Bears, right? He's been coached up, he's been trained. Again, Eric Washington was his position coach last year with the Bills. Leonard Floyd at 31 had 10.5 sacks last year. All right. I would take that. I would take 9.5 sacks next year from Leonard Floyd at 32 years old. So I think Leonard Floyd, if you're going for tier 3, again, another 1 year veteran deal. I think Shaq Barrett obviously is more of that undersized 3-4 outside linebacker. Emmanuel Ogbah is a big, powerful guy as well, not a speed guy. So Van Ginkel is an interesting guy, hard-nosed player, plays hard, plays tough. He would be just another situational pass rusher. So if you can't get a Bryce Huff or Armstrong or even Josh Uche, who's a second-round pick, but that's a kid that went to the Ravens, or was he with the Patriots? I forgot which team he went to, but he's a guy that gives you some of that first-step quickness, some speed off the edge. So, obviously the big name is Hunter. The guy I really wanted, and maybe there's a way they could do something here with a trade, but it's Brian Burns from Carolina. I know they tagged him. They cut off negotiations with him and they ended up tagging him. So I think that's going to be an unhappy player. I'll see how that turns out there. But that's a guy I really would have been a nice, solid fit opposite of Montez Sweat. So of those guys there, Greenyard, Huff, Dorian Armstrong are guys, and Leonard Floyd, if you want to go to that kind of that tier 3 veteran, are guys that I'd be kind of looking, keep my eye on.
The one concern that I have with Greenyard, and I really, really like him a lot, is he's never played a full 16 or 17 game season. He's had injuries, and 2 seasons ago he missed. He only played in 8 games, so that's something that has to be considered if you're serious about him. Also, he's not really quite a speed rusher, isn't he? I know he's not quite as big as Montez Sweat, but isn't his style very similar to Sweat in terms of he's
got that first step explosiveness off the line of scrimmage. Now, the other thing with Greenyard, another thing I thought you were going to go this way is that I think this is his first year he had double-digit sacks, right? This is his free agent year. He kind of exploded there at 12.5, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So he's not the guy is that a free agent, kind of spike year. So we'll see. But Huff is a guy that's consistently been a guy that gets after the quarterback. He might not have the sack numbers, but he's always there after the quarterback. Now he plays with a good defensive front and with the Jets, so we'll see. But these are guys looking for fast, quick twitch guys, opposite of Montez Sweat. And while the draft has limited options, I really would love to be able to open up that second pick, whether it's the 9th pick or you trade it down at wherever you get to use that on an offensive player to complement your quarterback, whether it's Caleb or Daniels or whoever is starting next year. Fortify the line, fortify the receiving group, because I say you got to come out of this draft with at least 2 receivers, in my opinion, and probably a couple of free agents as well.
Getting back to the running back position for a quick question from J2K. He asked, what about DJ Dallas, who was with the Seahawks last season? Would you consider him as a free agent guy to kick the tires on?
He's like a third down back, in my opinion. He's a guy that could, doesn't really give you the much. I mean, other than, who's the guy we just signed from Seattle last year to play?
Travis Homer.
Jeff Homer to play special teams. So I think he's a bigger guy than that, bigger than Homer. But again, it's not something that I would. I mean, there's running backs in this draft class that are going to come on that day 2, day 3 that are going to be sensational. And you're talked about speed element, right? You can get a speed guy, you can get a guy. They might not be bell cows. They might not be 25, 30 carry guys, but the guys that give you speed element, the guys that give you in between tackles, the guys that can give you that perfect fit for the inside outside zone scheme. So you can pair that guy up with what you have right now in the running back room. I think that is sufficient enough. But again, you have to add to the offensive line, and you have to add to the receivers as well.
Among the cuts for Seattle today, Will Dissly, the tight end, is he somebody that perhaps because of his?
I think tight end will be a position that they're going to look at. I think I had a couple of names here. I think all 3 of the tight ends are available. Kobe Parkinson, who's 25 from Seattle. He's a bigger guy, more athletic guy. Noah Fant, 26 years old from Seattle, was part of that Russell Wilson trade from a first-round pick from IOL from Denver. Came over to Seattle, part of that trade. And Will Dissly today was cut. He's 27 years old. But Dissly's more of like an inline blocking tight end. But I think Fant and Parkinson give you a little bit more. Harrison Bryant, 26 years old from Cleveland, is a guy, if we're talking about it, complement, like a guy you can split out in the slot. Harrison Bryant from Cleveland could be a guy. Drew Sample is a guy with Cincinnati that I think is very underrated. He's a guy that's in that tweener guy. He's not a slot guy or a receiving guy, but he's not even a wide. He's kind of like an in between. That's why he kind of gets lost in the shuffle there in Cincinnati. So there are a couple players. I think one of those Seattle guys will end up being on this Bears roster just because of the familiarity with Shane Waldron.
Anybody else on free agency that you wrote down? Because those are all the reminders that I had. Yeah,
receiver. Receiver is a huge area of need for me. I think, like I said, they got to come out of this draft with at least 2 receivers and possibly 1 or 2 veteran free agents as well. A couple of guys. Again, this is a premier position. You may have to overpay to get some of these guys. We talked about the salary cap going up, so the Bears have some ample cap money, but I'm not saying go crazy. But a guy like Gabe Davis at Buffalo, only 25 years old. And I know he's been inconsistent in terms of if you're a fantasy football player and you've had Gabe Davis on your roster, I've had him a couple of years, he kills you right there. He'll have 1 week where you're benched him because he didn't do nothing the week before, and he goes out for 7 catches and 3 touchdowns. And then the next week you catch. But I think that comes with the system of playing with a quarterback like Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and some of the weapons they have at Buffalo. But I think if you bring him in here as a number 3, right, to complement DJ Moore, to complement the rookie you're hopefully going to draft in the first or early portion of the draft, I think as a number 3, Gabe Davis does a good job. Only 25 years old. He's been in the league for I believe 5 or 6 seasons. So that's a guy that and he's a veteran. He's good in terms of blocking down the field as well. So team captain I believe was for Buffalo. Tyler Boyd is a guy I've talked about a lot. Kind of got lost in the shuffle there in Cincinnati with some of the star they have out there with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. But at 29 years old, I think he's another good complement, number 3 guy. Cedric Wilson from Miami was with Dallas, only 28 years old, gives you a little bit of that speed element. I think he's a guy that you can take a look at. Guy that always gets, to me, whenever I put on a Minnesota game, he's always making plays, and that's KJ Osborne. Right. Another guy that gets lost between Jefferson and Addison, the rookie last year, and then Hawkinson, the tight end. Osborne only 27 years old. Another third string guy, number 3 receiver, I think could be a nice complement there to your starters. And the guy that I think you and I both like, and it's Juwan Jennings from 49ers. He's a guy that really had made a pretty good career for himself and third downs the last couple of years with 49ers. Now he is restricted, so and I'm not sure what the cap numbers are for San Francisco. I'm sure they want to keep him. I'm not sure how much they tender him to, whether it's a first or second round tender. I'm not sure, but he's a guy I just put down there because again, 27 years old, pretty good. Again, number 3 receiver that you would look at, but receiver, edge rusher, receiver, and then interior offensive line, whether it's center or guard. I think those are your priorities, and then you can fill in the safety and all other stuff.
Did you mention Noah Brown from Houston?
I did not mention Noah Brown. He's a guy that's, I believe, 28 or 29 years old, was with Dallas. And then last year with Houston, once they lost Nico Collins, kind of stepped up and had some production. He's another guy, again, would be his 3rd team. So I think, as a number 3 receivers guy that gets intriguing, but I think the big play potential with Gabe Davis and KJ Osborne and Tyler Boyd probably is a little better than Noah Brown because he's only done it for that 1 half season with Houston. Other than that, his career has been pretty much non-descriptive.
Yeah, 7 years in the league, and that was, it really opened my eyes when I saw his performance in the second half of the season. I wish I would have picked him up on my fantasy team after Tank Dell went down, but he still would be intriguing just because of his downfield blocking. It's always been good, and now he has shown signs that he can be a dependable receiver. Vizsla Joe asked about Ridley, Calvin Ridley. He's available.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley is a guy that was a rising star a couple years ago. Obviously got suspended when he was with Atlanta, got suspended for a year, came back last year with Jacksonville, and I think he underperformed. I think everyone was expecting Ridley to have this great year, and I know he had over 1,000 yards receiving, but it just didn't seem like he was that go-to number one receiver that Jacksonville expected, right? So he's going to be commanding a lot of money, and that's the thing is I can't pay him more than or near that I'm paying DJ Moore, right? And I think that's where he's going to come in at, somewhere in that ballpark, and I just can't do that with Calvin Ridley.
All right, we're nearing the end of this show. If there are any questions, please get them in as quickly as possible. Danny, is there anything regarding the Chicago Bears and where they're at now, the weekend before free agency begins, that is concerning to you, that you're a little bit worried about?
Well, the Jalen Johnson thing kind of played out how we talked about, Aldo. There was no long-term contract. They tagged him. They did the non-exclusive tag, which is interesting. Teams can negotiate with Jalen, but they have to give up 2 first-round picks if the Bears don't match, which that's not going to happen. I just wonder if that non-exclusive tag, which is the same thing that the Chiefs gave L'Jarius Sneed, and they've told Sneed to go find a trade, right? So I'm not sure if that is an inkling, if I'm reading too much into it. Is this something where they could give, Jalen Johnson the opportunity to get himself a deal and then trade him? So that's something to keep an eye on. It's concerning. If Jalen's gone, obviously, we all are big fans of Jalen here at the bar room. I think he's a damn good corner. He's not a shutdown corner. So for him to kind of want to set the market at cornerback, whether it's 22 or 24 million a year, I think that's a little bit too much for Jalen. But he's a good corner. I think that's the franchise tag, which is about 19 million, 19, 20, 21 million. I think that's the range that I would keep him at. So we'll see if that happens. I think, that could be, keep an eye on the situation where everyone thinks because Ryan Poles said he's not going anywhere, that could be the case. They could just, keep him on a franchise tag and not pay him. But then how happy would Jalen be next year? Will he be a disgruntled player? So that's something that worries me. And obviously, this thing with Justin, it is becoming a little weary in terms of not for obviously Justin's kind of already, zoned out and he's doing his own thing and go on vacation. But, I just think the whole thing with the media and in terms of how they're kind of breaking him down and saying, teams are not wanting to give anything for him. It's all part of a negotiation ploy. Why would a team that knows the Bears are going to draft a quarterback give up a valued asset for him? That's why they're trying to play the Bears out. They're trying to see how long Ryan Poles will play this game. But I know that he's valued around the league, and Atlanta apparently has their eyes set on Kirk Cousins, and they want to go the veteran route, whether it's Cousins or Baker Mayfield. We'll see how Atlanta goes, but I think they're not going with that owner is up there in age, and he wants to get a winning team out there, and they feel like they're just a quarterback away. So I think Atlanta is not going to be an option for him. Pittsburgh. Again, I don't know if Ryan Poles should be trading with Pittsburgh since they Khan went ahead and really stole that second round pick for Claypool. So Pittsburgh talking about they're not interested in bringing anybody real competition for Kenny Pickett. So that to me leaves New England. It leaves a team like if Tampa loses Baker Mayfield, keep an eye on Tampa Bay for Justin there as well. But there's talk about New England going after someone like Baker Mayfield, because of the connection with Alex Van Pelt, who was his offense coordinator with the Browns. So there's a lot of dominant. You've heard Joe Flacco with New England. You've heard Jacoby Brissett with New England. All of these things are going around all over the place. So I always wish for Justin's sake that would just get taken care of. And the Bears will go ahead and move him because that's what they're planning on doing, and just get his name out of the news cycle, and so he'll know where he's going to be, and he can start working with his new team, and hopefully it's a position or it's an organization that's going to, believe in him and build around him and give him all the weapons and tools he needs to grow what I still believe is going to be a promising career.
All right. I think we are done for the day. I don't think we have any questions that we haven't already answered during the course of the show. I want to thank our guest today, Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri. Man, what a great interview. What a great guy. We wish him all the luck in the world. You were, yeah, Hazel Crest is, he told me before the show started that his family still lives in Hazel Crest, and he would love to be a Chicago Bear because he'd have free rent. He could sleep with his parents, he says.
He'd be our Tommy DeVito.
There you go. And you've been talking to Jalen Coker about rejoining us on the show, huh?
Yeah, he reached out to me just to stay in touch, and you know, Coker, obviously, you from Holy Cross, although did a great interview with him. You know, pre-draft process, he ended up going to the East West Shrine game, and then had a pretty good showing there at the combine last week at I think 42.5-inch vertical. Big possession type receiver, a guy who can make a play on the ball down a football field. One of those guys that goes up and gets those 50-50 balls. So, Coker's, still probably a day 3 guy, but potential to get drafted is looking better and better for Jalen Coker. So yeah, hopefully we can bring him back. Hopefully we can bring Ryan back and kind of go through their journey once they're on NFL teams and they get drafted.
Yeah. Very good. Just a reminder to people that the next Gabriel Talks Football is scheduled for Monday at 11 Central Time, and the scheduled guest is recently retired Peter King, the Hall of Fame writer. And then future guests, you're going to hate this, Danny, because he's stolen some of our guests. Eric Agelko and Daniel Jeremiah, and quarterback J.J. McCarthy is going to be on sometime after his pro day. So as the commercial that we showed earlier, we've got exclusive interviews here between Gabriel Talks Football and Draft on Tap. We've got excellent coverage. We've got insider information. We've got great evaluations. This is one of the places you should mark down for any of your draft news. There's lots of them out there and a lot that are very good. I'm very proud of the work that Danny does. And, of course, great Gabriel. So with that, Danny, you want to say goodbye to your fans?
Goodbye, fans.
We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.